Today we are going to be getting into a full 4-round Chargers mock draft where we get a king's ransom back from the Denver Broncos and go off the wall by picking a defensive tackle in round 1.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer. We've been covering the Chargers together now for 8 seasons, but this is our 6th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you guys, as always, for making us your first listen, and to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Well, Daniel, we have a full 4-round mock draft we are going to get into today, and we know the Chargers have a lot of needs, but we don't know which one of those needs the Chargers are prioritizing the most. So in this one, we're going to take a defensive tackle to start, and then we're going to try to fill out as many needs as we possibly can with our remaining picks.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing is, too, is just like, okay, if the Chargers don't go wide receiver on round 1, how do they get one? How do they get one you feel good about? And we found a way, I think, to get a guy we both feel pretty good about. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's it. $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. David, for this Chargers 4-round mock draft, we talked about it before. If you want to trade with a division rival, it's going to cost you a king's ransom. So on today's episode, we traded back with the Broncos, and we're, steadfast in our belief of, hey, we want to stay. You pick Marvin Harrison Jr., you pick Malik Neighbors, but there's a good chance that doesn't happen. So we wanted to explore some of those different kind of scenarios. And today, we traded the 5th overall pick for the Broncos' 12th overall pick, for pick 126 this year in the 4th round, and then 2 more additional future firsts. So that's the kind of king's ransom I'm looking for, especially if I'm going to trade with a division rival, especially if I'm going to trade back and not take one of those elite receivers. I'll go let them be bad and give me top 10 picks the next couple of years. That's how I feel about it. But
exactly.
We wanted to go a little bit different with it because we haven't really talked about defensive tackle as a first-round pick. So today, with pick 12, we ended up going with Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle from Texas, Dane Brugler's 16th overall ranked player, right? So maybe a little bit of a reach here, but also the kind of unequivocal best defensive tackle in this class, David. And I wanted to just kind of see, okay, hey, how would it make sense if the Chargers did decide not building in the trenches on the offensive line, but going defensive line instead?
Yeah, I mean, hey, when you're looking at Byron Murphy, he's probably a little bit of a smaller player in the middle. He's 6 foot, 297, but the Chargers need like impact talent on their defensive line. I mean, they lost a couple of key members to that defensive line that played a lot of snaps last year, and they just are kind of devoid of talent a little bit. So they need to bring somebody in to the fold that can come in and make an immediate impact. Byron Murphy definitely has some tools that he can use to really make an impact right away.
And I think you would see with this pick, if the Chargers ended up going this way, it's like, okay, well, we're just going to, in our attempt to make our defense a lot better, just try to create the most ferocious pass rush that we possibly can, right? Yes. I think if you're trying to make the argument for taking a pass rushing defensive tackle, which is what Byron Murphy is, and he's no slouch against the run either, but it's no question what his specialty is. He's a pass rusher. That's what he does best. If you can get somebody like this and then have Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack and Tui Tuipulotu on the outside, now you're creating, one of the best pass rushing front fours in the NFL. You can throw Morgan Fox in there as a rotational guy too. You have missiles, right? And not only can you help out your edge rushers, because I do think one of the things and one of the reasons you don't see the stats with Byron Murphy is he's a guy that's going to make other players around him collect a lot of stats because he's just such a disruptor in the backfield. So I think that's what the game plan would be, because not only can you help your edge rushers, you can help your defensive backs as well. And we know there's some big question marks in that secondary. But as far as what he brings to the table, for me, ultra disruptive, constantly in the backfield. According to Dane Brugler, 45 pressures in 2023. Excellent burst off the snap. He has elite quickness for the position. I mean, he hops over gaps. They did some weird things with him at Texas. But he's also, one of the better pass rushing defensive linemen that have come out in a long time. A guy that just has the ability to blow up plays. And when you're talking about the Chargers, who haven't really had somebody like that in a long time, you understand why they make the pick. Like, you look at his, numbers compared to someone like Jerry Tillery. I mean, he has the highest pass rush win rate of anyone coming out into this class as a defensive tackle, which swamps what Jerry Tillery was coming out of Notre Dame. Like, this dude's on a different level than that. And I think also a player, David, that plays with great effort, a couple of chase down tackles as well. So there's a lot to like about his game.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think for me, when I was watching Byron Murphy, violent hands definitely stood out to me. I feel like he's a problem when you're trying to block him one-on-one. He's just really, really quick. He wins with quickness, and you see that repeatedly when you're watching him. He also, I feel like he utilizes a very effective swim move as well to try to split double teams and get through linemen. Has a great motor. He's a high effort player. He does not give up on plays, even when he's on the ground. I saw him get moved to the ground and then still get up and make a tackle. And I also felt like he just does a really good job of ripping through those gaps, because he's not a player that's going to really win with power and strength. He's not a brute force type of defensive tackle. He's a slasher. He's a guy that's going to use quickness, but he very much is a disruptor. And man, I can imagine having a guy like him in the middle while you have Bosa on one side, Mack on the other side, and then Thule somewhere on the field as well. I mean, would be absolute mayhem, and an opposing offensive line is really going to have to figure out where they allocate their protection resources to try to limit that eventual damage.
Yeah, who are you going to double, right? That's what it becomes, and it's just another guy where you have to make a tough decision. And as a team that's played, the AFC West with Chris Jones for a long time, you know how impactful a player like that can be. I think he's solidly powerful too. I think he does win though, just with his quickness and converting that to power, just because he gets on you so quick that it can be hard to stop. But yeah, I watched that same play, him doing everything he could to stand up against the double team, splits it somehow from his knees, gets through and makes a tackle. Like, the effort's definitely there. You wonder if the fit's there, though, and that's my biggest thing. We went with the best defensive tackle, regardless of fit, if they were going in there, and he's the only guy that would really make sense to take with the 12th overall pick here, right? And even that's pushing it a little bit. Not sure if this is what Jesse Minter wants, right? A slashing defensive tackle, a kind of a 3 technique that's going to live in the backfield. But easily the biggest con to his game is the aggression overtakes him at times, and it makes him overrun a lot of plays. And he left a lot of sacks on the table, a lot of tackles for loss on the table. He also had shorter arms too, which contributed to that. But it's kind of one of those things like with Derwin James, right? It's like, hey, you'd rather him have, even Tui Tuipulotu, right? You'd rather him have the aggression and kind of the craziness and want to rein it in than try to have to bring it out of him on a snap-to-snap basis. But when you're looking at the cons, I think that's number one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I definitely saw some overextension from time to time. I feel like he gets stopped kind of more often than I would like, and I think it's just that strength department. Also, I mentioned he was on the ground, but still gets up. He's on the ground a little bit too much for my liking, too. I definitely noticed that when I was watching the tape, and he's not really going to be running over anybody. He's a decent run defender, but like we've said all along, I mean, his calling card is getting after the passer. Like, that's really what he's going to be bringing to the table. But I think for me, I think I would like somebody who's a little bit more substantial size-wise, a little bit stronger, can kind of hold up on those double teams and kind of break through with more strength. So I think that's, he's probably not the profile of player that I would particularly like, but I can understand if they really just want to get that pass rush right and they want to unleash just a ferocious NASCAR package, then he's definitely going to be a big part of that equation.
Yeah, it's easy to see why they want it. It's just more of the style. Like, it's what kind of flavor you want with him. Is that kind of what you want? I don't see his size as much of an issue. I mean, Chris Jenkins Jr. was their best defensive tackle. He was listed at 299 pounds last year. So he's not, one of these guys we've seen playing, 275-pound defensive tackle, 3 technique. So the size isn't as much of a problem with me. I think he fights hard against double teams and does actually a pretty good job with his leverage just to not give up much ground. Like, he will literally go to his knees, plant his feet in the ground, and fight that tooth and nail. Will he give up a couple yards at times? Sure. I mean, he has to, right? And it's not going to change at the NFL level.
Right.
At the same time, though, I think he does enough to split enough double teams and stuff to still make an impact as a run defender. But you're getting him as a pass rusher. I just think that there's probably defenses that probably fit what he brings to the table a little bit better than that. But the main thing we wanted to do here, just kind of as a thought experiment with the draft next week, is just how do you fill the other needs if you don't go wide receiver in round 1? So we found a different way to go find a receiver that we really liked in the second round, and we traded up a little bit to go get him. So we're going to get into that and finding a cornerback in the third round and more on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. I do want to tell you guys about eBay Motors, though, because passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it makes it easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, David, let's continue this full Chargers 4-round mock draft where we got a haul from the Denver Broncos and had to move back to 12, and we went off the wall and went defensive tackle, right? Which, hard to believe they would do it at 12, but this was about how do you fill the rest of it. So we got a defensive tackle who's obviously going to bring an impact to your defense. Having an impact player at that position is something the Chargers haven't had in a long time, but you didn't fill your biggest needs. So where do you go from here, right? And so when you get to that next crop of wide receivers, with how many good wide receivers in this draft, there's probably going to be a run of them at the end of the first round. So what we did in this draft today is we got that pick 126, the extra fourth round pick from the Broncos. So what we did is we used our fourth round pick at 110 to move up a few spots, maybe to 31, get in front of the Chiefs who, need a receiver, to go and get Ladd McConkey, the wide receiver from Georgia. Him and A.D. Mitchell, if you're talking about trying to trade back up into the first round, would probably be options, but then you have teams like the Bills, you have teams like the Chiefs. All those teams really, really need receivers. So there's going to be a run on them. We found a way to get Ladd McConkey in this one. David, this is a guy that didn't really ever put up a elite production at Georgia, but like what he did in the offseason at the Senior Bowl and all those things, and watching him on tape, the dude just wins. He has insane footwork. He wins routes. He creates separation, great acceleration, deceleration, can stop on a dime. There's a lot to like about Ladd McConkey that you wouldn't necessarily know just by looking at the stat sheet.
Yeah, absolutely. The stats are definitely not the full story here, and I was honestly surprised when I did look at the stats after watching the tape. I expected a lot more production than what was really put in the numbers on the stat sheet.
Missed some games as well, which part of that too.
Yeah,
at least this year. I think you would have had a much bigger last season had he not missed a couple games.
I agree. Yeah. So Ladd McConkey here from Georgia, 5'11", 186 pounds. Brings some genuine speed to the table. A 4.39 40. This guy can definitely scoot. I thought he was an excellent run blocker. I felt like he used very good technique and tenacity as a smaller receiver. Didn't see him get beat quite a lot. He had strong hands through contact. I feel like he showed a good variety of releases off the line of scrimmage. He does a very good job of sitting down, especially on the outside routes, like the outside pockets of the defense. He's dangerous outside the numbers. I mean, it seems like he just always knows where to be, knows where the sidelines are. Also, this guy knows how to defeat your angles. He took a motion pitch to the left side, used a really nice jab step, and then kind of just waltzed the rest of the way into the end zone for a touchdown. This guy's got genuine, legitimate shake and bake. He made a couple of defenders miss in the open field against Oregon and was literally inches away from scoring a 25-plus yard touchdown. This guy is a genuine, real yak threat. So I liked a lot of what I saw with Ladd McConkey. I can understand where he would fit in the Chargers offense. And this guy, I think, would be effective and would be very quick to get chemistry with Justin Herbert. I don't think it would take very long at all.
Yeah, like I said, he just wins. He has good bursts off the line. I mean, I don't know if you always see the 4.39 as far as him just being an overall deep threat. I don't think that's the best part of his game. I do think he's underrated in the yak department, and he does have that kind of speed. He's a little shifty. Did really good as far as he's, the scores he got, 9.34 RAS score. And a big part of that was him being 90th percentile in his shuttle run and 94th percentile in his three cone, which speaks to what that agility. Yeah. And just also a very crisp route runner that creates separation, wins one-on-ones, really excelled on outbreaking routes and comeback routes, but just because his deceleration and just him getting into the defender. I mean, you just watch the Alabama game and watch what he did to Kool-Aid McKinstry, watch what he did to Terrion Arnold, two guys that are, potentially both first-round picks. One guy has potential to be the first cornerback off the board. they didn't know what to do with him for big parts of that game, right? And I think playing in a Georgia offense doesn't help you with a big, run-heavy offense. And I think that leads to the lack of college production, which is one of the things, that's a concern. Never the number one option behind, Brock Bowers, behind George Pickens. Before that, smaller catch radius. He's not a huge physical guy. I think he is a good tenacity with his run blocker. I wonder if he's going to be able to make an impact as a run blocker at the NFL level just because of that size. And then missed 5 games last year with back and ankle injuries. Those would be my biggest cons, but I really, really like him.
Yeah, I think, probably limited space to be able to add to the frame, I think is another kind of concern just at the NFL level.
Maxed out frame.
Yeah, he's kind of maxed out. I don't think he's going to be able to add kind of any more strength.
He's always going to be undersized.
Frame.
But he has a little bit of Antonio Brown to him, weirdly enough. I see a little bit of that just with even smaller guy. But what he does well, I think he does really well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I didn't see a whole lot of negatives when I was watching him. I think this is a guy that can routinely get open. He has strong hands. I think this is a guy that, the stats are definitely not going to be what he brings to the table at the NFL level. I feel like if this guy gets an opportunity to be your number 2 wide receiver, I think he's going to be able to step up and handle that right away.
Yeah, and I don't know if he'll ever be a number 1, but I think he could be a really high-end number 2. So let's get to the next pick here that we have at 69, Max Melton, cornerback from Rutgers. 63rd on Dane Brugler's overall, right around the same on the consensus board. So a little bit lower than where he might go, but I loved what I saw from him. I mean, dude who has a ton of athleticism. I love the way he plays with a chip on his shoulder. I like Max Melton a lot. I think that would be a steal if you could get him at 69.
Max Melton is probably my favorite player that I watched among these 4 guys.
And you know how much we like Bo Melton, too. Bo Melton's his older brother. So, I mean, family bloodlines.
Well, hey, maybe there's something in the water over there because, I really like what Max Melton brings to the table from Rutgers, 5'11", 187 pounds. And the core reason why I really enjoyed watching Max Melton is he is an excellent tackler. And I mean, fantastic from what I saw. He's able to get you on the ground. It doesn't really matter in what situations it is. He's physical in run support, and he's more than just a willing participant. He wants to. He like you can tell he wants to run through you. He shows good technique. He does a very good job of getting off of blocks and making tackles. I feel like he does a great job of staying in the hip pocket on your in-breaking routes. He's a high-effort player. He does not give up on plays. I saw him chase down a receiver from the opposite end, ran 70 yards down the field.
It was an Ohio State running
against
back.
Ohio State, and was able to save a touchdown when that guy was gone. I mean, really, Max Melton had no business being able to catch up and actually, save that touchdown. But he did. I mean, that's what high-effort players, high-energy players are able to do. And Max Melton is the embodiment of that. I feel like the Chargers were able to get him in the middle rounds. I think this is a guy that can step in and be one of your outside corners from day one.
I think he shows the ability to be a really good tackler. I mean, looking up the stats afterwards, I was surprised to see he had 12 missed tackles in 2023. So I think he's shown the ability to do it. I think the ball skills are another thing. 8 interceptions over the last 3 years, at least 2 in each season. 30 pass breakups over the last 3 years, at least 9 in each season. The biggest thing to me, what sold me the most, is I watched him have big-time matchups against Roman Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr., and he acquitted himself both times. Never got beat big by Marvin Harrison Jr. Never, got beat a couple times by Roman Wilson, but it was a hell of a battle. I thought they really, really battled, and I think he probably came out with the better of the game, honestly, between the two of them. So that's what really sold me on it. Another thing, great special teams player. Listen to this. 4 blocked punts in college, including 3 blocked punts in 2022. So, David,
I love it.
Cons, real quick, got to go. What do you have for his cons as far as what you didn't like about Max Melton?
I mean, for me, there's a lot that I liked from Max Melton. There wasn't too many things that I didn't really like. I think for me, on the outside, I think he's a perfect fit out there. Probably not a guy that's going to give you a whole lot of tackling issues. I mean, I thought not, but
depends
the 12 missed tackles. I didn't really see a lot that I didn't like.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this is the big thing, right? 3 counts of aggravated assault for doing a drive-by shooting with a paintball gun. That's the thing. How much does this Chargers front office change? Are they willing to make that concession? Issue. He was suspended for 3 games for it. That's the only thing I could really find as far as anything off the field, which in a vacuum doesn't seem that bad. He shot people with a paintball gun, but still, you know what I mean? He got suspended for it.
Yeah, it's a maturity thing.
got a big grabby, saw him get flagged once for pass interference, actually as he was giving up a touchdown. And I think a little bit stiffer. He did not do, pretty poor 3-cone drill, average shuttle run. That's one thing, but that's why I think he's actually more meant for the outside. I'd rather have him on the outside than in the slot. And I thought, from what the film showed me, I think there's so much to like about this guy. Will the Chargers, will that make him drop to the third round where the Chargers are, potentially this paintball thing, right? I hope, the Chargers can interview him and see, that he's changed, or if he has or not. Yeah. I would hate for that to get in the way of them getting a really, really good player. He paid the price for it to an extent, right? And I would be okay with them taking him as far as the off-field concerns. That doesn't bother me too much. But now how do we round it out? Because we have 2 fourth-round picks to work with, a bunch of big needs still available, and one of the ones we wanted to see and one that will likely get taken is a running back. So we went with a running back that seems like he would fit Greg Roman's offense nicely. So we're going to get to that and potentially the center of the future on today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, though, I need to tell you guys about Monopoly Go. I've been told I'm a competitive person. Do you think that's true?
Nah, no way.
Okay, I mean, yes, of course I have a competitive side. We all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times, and it's a great twist on Monopoly where you can play not one, but hundreds of different Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, but now I can also rob their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboard show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. I also need to tell you guys about FanDuel because it is playoff time in the NBA and NHL, and baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. And what a weekend we just had. Whether it's the MMA fights and the craziness that happened at 300, or if it's, maybe you took my advice. You went with a little Scotty Scheffler in a green jacket. Did I say Tiger Woods? I don't remember, but it was, I also threw in a Scotty Scheffler there. But the main thing is if you don't want to miss out on great weekends like that, you got to make sure you have FanDuel so you can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win, $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, David, we have a couple more picks to get to here, and way more than that needs to fill for this team, and we'll do our full 7-round mock next week. Also, a great 7-round mock by Daniel Popper I hope to get to this week. Maybe the perfect 7-round mock from what I've seen so far, the best one I've seen so far. But we have 2 more picks here. But first, I need to tell everyone that it's Locked On NFL mock draft season, and live on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel and on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise. So make sure you guys check that out. April 17th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Pick 4, David, 105. We went with Braelon Allen, a guy I've seen linked to the Chargers a bunch of times. He had to fall a little bit. Dane Brugler's 91st overall ranked player. Consensus Sport has him at 97. I think he has to go to the right fit, though. I think fit's going to be important for Braelon Allen. But what did you like when you watched him?
Yeah, so for Braelon Allen, it's a big back, 6'1", 235 pounds. I feel like he possesses the power to run people over. I feel like he's a very good pass blocker, like an excellent pass protector. They put him one-on-one a lot
much
of different
better
times.
than most college running backs, right?
Yeah,
we've watched a lot of college running backs. It's usually one of the biggest flaws. And he has some, there's some off moments for him too, picking the right guy and stuff like that. But the want to from him stood out compared to other guys we've watched for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, he looks like a linebacker out there protecting the quarterback. He definitely has good size and length. I feel like he has a nose for the end zone. When he gets close, he's able to punch it in. He has enough speed to run away from people if he's given a runway. He's definitely not like a breakaway home run speed guy.
No, he's not. He didn't run the 40 time either, so, I mean, there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah, for sure. He has a really effective stiff arm. I mean, this is a guy that puts people in the dirt with the stiff arm. It's very, very impactful part of his game. Also, he has the truck stick. I mean, it's part of his arsenal. He took a pitch, kind of like a little pitch forward against Iowa, turned around, and then absolutely destroyed a linebacker and continued forward for at least another 10 yards. So if you're looking for a north-south bruiser, a guy that's going to get you those in between the tackles, just forward style of hard-nosed running, then Braelon Allen is going to be your cup of tea.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about nose for the end zone, but 35 touchdowns over his 3 seasons at Wisconsin, which is awesome. Also, 49 career receptions, including 28 last year. Not what Gus Edwards is known for, right? Gus Edwards, I think, career high is 12 receptions in a season, and only 20 years old, too. So a chance to get better. Yeah. But he's not super elusive. He's not going to shake and bake you. But per the 33rd team on Twitter, of his 3,482 yards at Wisconsin, 2,182 of them came after contact. So I think that shows you the leg drive. I think that shows you the finishing ability. And I think he just also works good in tight spaces as well. So it's going to be kind of a flavor thing again, where it's like, do they want someone who's more explosive next to Gus Edwards, or do they just want to double down on power and just battering ram you for an entire game for 60 minutes? Because if they wanted to go with the latter, Braelon Allen is the guy that you would take. And I think especially with him, like, one of the cons is just extreme attention paid to him. Like, that Wisconsin offense and their quarterback was so freaking bad. He's not a home run hitter, but, like, it's hard because Wisconsin's offense was so bad, it was hard to get, like, a truly full evaluation, just because you could tell that every team, almost every defender, was locked on him, right? No agility grades for him either, which means they probably wouldn't have been great. I hate to speculate, but that would match what the tape is. I don't think he had anything to gain by doing those agility things. No. I don't see him being a special back at the NFL level. No. I don't see him being a star. I think he can be a solid fit for what this offense wants to do. But it's good to pick 126 because we have one more, because we got that one from the Broncos. We used our other 4th-round pick to trade up to get Ladd McConkey, just so we knew we could get kind of someone in that second batch of wide receivers. Pick 126, David, I liked a lot. His name is Hunter Nourzad. He's a center from Penn State. Super, super solid. I liked what I saw from his film.
Yeah, Hunter Nourzad, a good size for a center here, 6'3", 317 pounds.
Good long arms, too, for a center, over 33 inches.
Yeah, very long arms, which is great. Obviously, we love that for our offensive linemen. He's extremely intelligent, very, very smart. He graduated with his bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Cornell, according to Dan Brugler's The Beast, one of the best draft guides out there. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Shout out to Dan Brugler.
But also, that's not all. He also earned academic All Big Ten honors for having the highest GPA amongst seniors on the football team, and also earned his master's degree in business administration from Penn State. So this guy is really, really smart. Also a very versatile player. He's played 20 games at right tackle, 13 games at center, 7 games at left guard, and one at right guard. So played pretty much all of the positions except on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Very technically proficient, only flagged 3 times in 24 games at Penn State. Constantly kept his head on a swivel in pass protection. Feel like he was thick, had a strong base, has pretty good recovery power, and he's pretty dangerous when he actually latches on and hits his opponent when he's running. He can really level guys. Like he can absolutely run people over, and he does have that nasty temperament that I like my offensive linemen to have.
Yeah, I don't think he's overly powerful. I don't think he's like he's not a mauler. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain guys, he's not a road paver type of a player. But I think he maximizes what he has in that department as far as just his athleticism, his power. Like, I think he does everything to maximize what he has. And he's an older player, too. He's going to be 25 as a rookie.
Yeah, so 6-year senior.
You can't really – this isn't a long-term developmental program or project, but I think that, like, with a guy like this, you're hoping, hey, if he has to step in this year, you feel like he has a pretty high floor there. And if you want him and you're just going to have him through his next 3 seasons after that to be your starting center, I think he could do it. I think it's another thing where it's like, pick who you like. I don't know if Greg Roman wants someone like this who's not just a road paver, but I think he plays with that finishing mentality that's good enough for me. I think all of his angles are really, really good. His second level blocking is really good. Does get himself in trouble at times by overextending. A little bit. But and I think also another guy who ends up on the ground a little bit too often. I think some of it's trying to avoid holding calls and things like that. Only 13 starts at center, but I thought looked really good, and obviously only 2 years against top competition because he was at Cornell before that. Maybe he's a better fit for his own blocking scheme. I thought he's pretty quick for a center and he gets to his spots really, really well. But I think you could almost put him in any scheme, and I think he would be fine. Maybe he's not the perfect fit think if you could get with pick 126, I think the consensus has this dude as like a 6th-round pick. That's insane to me. No chance to me that he goes that low. If they could get this dude at 126, I think you run to the podium and then, hey, maybe we have Bradley Bozeman for 1 year. I don't mind even trying to have him compete at guard, right? Like competition on the interior of this offensive line is what they need. And they need a guy who can potentially be the center of the future after Bradley Bozeman's done this year potentially. So love the pick. You brought it out to me. I loved what I saw from him. There's some really good centers, and I'm sure we'll talk about a couple more of them too as this draft process keeps going. But I liked what we did here. We had 4 rounds. We traded back, still found a receiver that we like, even though, we'd still rather stay at 5 and get one of those top-end guys, and somebody in that top 3 is who I really want. Still, if they don't go that way, we see here, hey, there's still some really good players and some really big positions that they can fill. So I liked what we got from this, and we'll keep building out these mock drafts as we get closer to the big day, and we'll talk about potentially Daniel Popper's close to perfect mock draft, and also get into some buy or sell tomorrow and let you guys get involved with the show as you always do. If there's someone you want us to watch, someone you really like, a buy or sell you have on your mind, hit us up at Locked On LAC or me at Dan Talk Sports and David Drogemeyer at Dro Talk SD on Twitter. But to make sure you don't miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free every day because it is your team every day on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, and listen wherever you get your podcast from. And you can also hit us up at Locked On Chargers on Instagram and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page as well, because we post the show to all those places every day. So make sure you guys are back here tomorrow for buy or sell. But until then, guys, take it easy and go Bolts.